Hello and welcome to The Big Fight, a show that is young at 23, the oldest running debate show on Indian news television. I'm Sanket Upadhyay. This is not, while we broadcast this show, this is not something which is making us very happy or pleased bringing this subject to you, because it involves death. It involves death by suicide, and that too of students. Now here is some data that I would like to read out. This is information that has come in from the government, and this is very, very significant because the bulk of our discussion is going to take place and revolve around this data. So in December 2021, Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan made a statement in Parliament where he said that between 2014 and 2021, 122 students died by suicide in IITs, IIMs and central universities. Of the 122, 24 are from the SC community, 3 from the ST community, 41 from the other backward classes, which means of the 122, 68 suicides were from students of the reserved category. Now this indicates towards some sort of a trend. When more than 50% of the students committing suicide in IIT, IIMs and prestigious institutes and universities in the country are from the reserved category, clearly something somewhere is wrong. Something is broken. In fact, if you take a look at the dropouts, then that also paints a similar picture. The dropouts in 7 IITs between 2016 and 2021, according to the government data, 63% of the dropouts are of students from the reserved category. 88% dropouts in the reserved category in IIT Guwahati. 76% dropouts in IIT Delhi are from the reserved category. In a situation like this, could possibly this allegation that comes each time from Rohit Vemula to now, that there is discrimination happening in these premier institutions, is worthy of a national level investigation? Or are we going to treat this as isolated incidents and let the local police handle it, which is of course their duty? But beyond that, in light of this government data, is there a pressing need for a national level investigation on whether there is discrimination or not? Why does this issue otherwise keep coming over and over and over again? So on The Big Fight, we're discussing discrimination, denial and deaths. What is pushing SC, ST and OBC students to suicide in these universities? So joining us now in the studio are Professor C.B. Sharma, Professor of Education, IGNOU. Thank you very much for joining us. We also have Professor Geeta Bhatt, Director of Non-Collegiate Women's Education Board at the University of Delhi. Thank you very much for joining us. Professor Badri Narayan, Director of the GB Pant Social Science Institute, and Ashok Bharti, Chairman of the National Confederation of Dalit Organization, NACDOR as it is called. In just a short moment, we'll also be joined in by Prakash Ambedkar, social activist as well as writer. I want to begin with you, Professor Geeta Bhatt. You see, these details are out. We know of a latest incident or a series of incidents. The data provided by the government on the floor of the House in Parliament is also very clear. If you want, I can read it out once again for you, that 122 students dying by suicide in IITs, IIMs and central universities. Of this, 68 suicides are from the reserved category, which means more than 50%. Don't you think that this merits a national level investigation beyond localized investigation which is happening in most of these cases?
Sanketji, definitely this unfortunate incident has to be taken very seriously, and all educational institutions, they must ensure that they are able to give quality education, a very safe campus and a cohesive learning environment, which is very important, because the students who are coming to all the national or central universities, they are from across the world, across the country, from various strata of the society. At the same time, if you see that as per the University Grant Commission also has many regulations, which ensures that the universities, they bring out such statutory provisions and ordinances which ensure that students coming from different aspects of the society, they are not discriminated in any way, whether it is gender, whether it is religion or whether it is caste. But at the same time, it is unfortunate that such type of incidents do come, into light, where we see that students who are from the marginalized section of the society, and those who are also not from the marginalized section, they are committing suicide. And this is actually a national loss, because these are young, bright students who can contribute so much to the country. At such a time, I think the most important thing is that, especially in institutions like, those which are the most coveted institutions in the country, like IITs or IIMs or other such institutions, those students who are coming from a marginalized background, they need to be assisted in terms of providing them with remedial classes. Sure. They may be having, some lesser proficiency, whether in terms of using technology or whether in terms of language. So, and most universities, if you see, they do have such kind of a system where they do provide remedial classes, and the students are able to gain a lot of confidence because of that. Also, along with it, there are mentor programs where, seniors are attached to the juniors, and counselors are also provided, where the students can go and talk to them in case they are facing any kind of a difficulty, whether it is in terms of discrimination or not. Sure. Now, definitely, whether it is this incident, or we have seen that in IIT Madras also, such kind of an unfortunate suicide has taken place. So, we need to look at it as a national loss, because, a young, bright mind
is there no more. IIT Guwahati, 10th of January 2023, a fourth year student found dead in a hostel room. IIT Kharagpur, 14th October 2022. IIT Madras, 15th September 2022. And the many incidents that have happened this year itself. But Mr. Sharma, my question over here, and if we talk about IIT Bombay, this incident particularly, the first step towards fixing a problem is to first acknowledge that there could be one. I'm not saying there is one, but there could be one. But if you look at the statement of IIT Bombay, an institution of great repute, right? So we are not putting that institution to disrepute. They say, we strongly refute claims in articles about Darshan's death, Darshan Solanki, the boy who died. As per initial input, no indication that Darshan faced discrimination. Wrong to make accusations as police investigation underway. An immediate denial of the problem will never help solve the problem. And I juxtapose this with some more information that has come in from the Ambedkar Periyar Study Circle Association, which claims that the head counsellor has been passing casteist remarks. They say merit of students coming from reserved category is questioned. Students not comfortable speaking about mental health. Students face harassment mostly because of anti-reservation sentiments. If you put these two things together, and then you see the sort of response that has come in from institutions, from governments, do you feel that there is something missing in our response?
Sanketji, I must compliment and congratulate that you have taken up this issue very seriously and you are discussing it, and this keeps happening again and again. But every time such an incident takes place, we forget that we need to find a long-term solution. We always try to find immediately who is at fault. Don't try and start by finding a fault with an institution, a director or teachers. I have been to IIT Bombay many times. My son studied there. It's a great institution which has great system in place. I have seen they have mentorship scheme for many decades now, and there's a senior student who looks after a junior student. And seniors absolutely are friendly and they have no ragging on that campus. But then don't forget, students from various societies, sections of society come, and they are a product of that community or backgrounds. We need to definitely take care that they feel at home in this institution. We need to do a survey and study and put up a system in place.
But what if there is a denial on a tricky incident?
Because you start with a blame game. We start by saying that he or she is at fault, IIT is at fault, the director is at fault. Obviously that institution or person has to
No, but why is the response of the institution that there is no discrimination? A more apt statement from this institution could have been, and I'm no one to advise them, that there are certain allegations that have come in, we will investigate.
There are reports that they have just got a survey done on the campus some time back, a few months back. That means they are sensitive towards it and they know. But what is more important at this point of time is that we have included people from various sections, and in the recent past we find that the government has been very sensitive about it and giving due place. Let me quote one example, the Sainik schools. We didn't admit girls only till 2 years back. Why? Similar things are being taken care of and remedies are being implemented. So I can tell you that such things we knew, we did not want to take measures and rectify. Now there is an effort, especially with the national education policy, which tries to undo all these ills of the society.
Okay, but that is a long-term solution that you are talking about, the national education policy, Professor Badri Narayan. And it's nice to deal with this in the long run, but in the short run, what does one do to prevent another such incident? I can understand pressure, education pressure, peer pressure, all of these things contribute to, and we have seen in the past, they do contribute to suicides. For instance, if up to 50% or above 50% are from the reserved category, there are about 45 odd percent from the general category also who have committed suicide in these institutes. So while we look at the larger issue, should we as a country, as lawmakers, concentrate on the reasons why this allegation of discrimination comes in over and over and over again? How do you address this?
Sanketji,
because I feel this is largely remain unaddressed.
Indeed, indeed. I think you are very right that this issue is not well addressed now till. And there are two things in this issue. One is the question which you raised, that what one should do for immediate act to stop this kind of things. One is changing the nature of institutions, because we always glorify our IITs and they are doing well. But the nature of the institution is very closed. And we need to make it very, it's kind of open kind of institution where you have a...
Would you like to elaborate? What do you mean?
Like I give you example of the JNU. No? JNU on the other hand is another example. There many students comes from marginal communities and also from distant part of India. They don't know English. They are very difficult to cope up with the JNU atmosphere. But after some time, the capacity building things, and then the teachers deal them very sensitively. So sensitive inclusion, you use the term inclusion, but inclusion is always treated as a governance or the control word, vocabulary. It should be used as a sensitive inclusion. So now we have crossed inclusion phase of the inclusion, making norms, provisions and all. Now we should evolve the second phase, that is the sensitive inclusion. And for that you need to change the nature of the institution. One, from closed to open. There should be safety wall of expression of the feelings, and there should be a kind of the counseling system which should be rooted in the emotional canvas of the society. Another thing which discrimination links with the discrimination. One friend asked to me that he is from UK, that in India suicide has also caste. Suicide is a psychological process. I said yes, in India, because suicide is a socio-psychological process. So caste comes in because institution is not a secluded place. IIT in Bombay is not a 100 acres.
Yeah, it's a reflection of what happens in the society.
Society yeah, okay. extends to the institution.
Fair enough.
And institution extends to the society.
Yeah.
So you need to change the entire structure, and that also again lead us to deal the problem for the long-term solution. Yeah. Long-term and short-term, both we will have to do.
Sure. Ashok Bharti, would you like to weigh in on this?
Well, I think in my opinion that IITs has evolved as elitist institutions. And in my opinion, the students that goes there and the teachers they are teaching there, or the faculty or the environment, is completely elitist in character, and they feel.
Would you like to define
what
do you mean by elitist?
Elitist means that where that the competition is so tough and high that unless people are having enough resources, enough richness, they can't enter into those institutions. If you look at the IIT competitions and the institutions that teaches for the IIT, for exam of the IIT, so it's a very heavily money-centric process where people pay heavy fees for tuitions and then only get into the IIT through admissions. Okay, that is good. And in case of IIT, I believe that this elitist character, and because the money, education background, everything matters, and the people, particularly the students from the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and the poor backgrounds, they find themselves out of the pace, out of the space in that institution. And that creates a psychological pressure on them, and IIT has no mechanism to deal with sociological phenomena, psychological phenomena that the
No, but
students
I've learned that all IITs have SC/ST counseling
Well, I'm
centers.
coming to that.
Yeah.
I'm coming to that. Creating supplementary or subsidiary education campaign, or it has been going in most of the engineering college for a long time. So IIT is nothing done very exceptional. The issue is that when the students from the lower classes or the economically poorer sections come, whether IITs are equipped to deal with their psychological, social process. That is the one. The second is the whole structure. If you look into the social demography of the IIT's professors, you look into the social demography of the students there, I believe that this social demography, sociological demography itself is against the thought process or against the inclusion of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe who come from the deprived community. So that creates a pressure, and most of the cases these students of the scheduled caste community, scheduled tribe community are demeaned, humiliated because of coming from the reserved category. And that is a big phenomenon, and I guess that IIT has to learn that the reservation is the very innovative, inclusive phenomena that Government of India adopted long ago, and it has to be nurtured. And now how to back so that other people do not feel that this is something being taken away from them. So that is the phenomenon that we have to learn. And particularly in this case, Darshan Solanki, that you rightly said that the IIT is in denial mode. In my opinion, the IIT has to find why their counselors are not equipped to deal with such kind of the phenomena happening there. Instead of creating the environment so that the students feel belong to there, they are feeling out of the space.
Okay. Dr. Bhatt, would you like to come in?
Yeah, one thing,
You know, this
as
is a
far
very
as I
important
know,
point that he's saying, that there is discrimination and people are discriminated against from the very point of entering that institute because they come in from a reserved category. That is what Dr. Ashok feels. What is your view?
One thing that, if I am not wrong, I think I have seen it correctly, that in JEE form, the IITs, they do not mention the JEE score or the caste of the student in their JEE form, keeping these sensitivities in mind, so that this is not, it is not there in any, open platform. This information is available about any student, which is, a positive reinforcement. How to look into any such, I do agree, we cannot deny that discrimination is not there in the society or within campuses. Yes, there could be such cases. But at the same time, we have to look at two more aspects. One is that these are professional institutions, like, JNU was being mentioned. Yes, it has a different kind of an open culture. But these are very, very competitive, institutions where through one of the very competitive exams the students get in, and the pressure to perform is very high from the family as well as the peer pressure is there. Along with it, also there is this aspect that there are many students who have these forced career choices who may not otherwise be not very keen or do not have that, apt interest in it.
While you say this,
but
while you say this, my only point is, see, this is the second time you're telling us about how there is peer pressure, how there could be pressure from, when they look around, they feel that there is competition and they don't have support from back home. I'm not saying that these are not valid points, but why is it that you gloss over or ignore or just completely look away from the discrimination angle?
You see, you need to have...
Right from Rohit Vemula, there is this conversation of discrimination which never finds itself in an investigation process, which never finds itself being discussed in public discourse at a level, at a policy change level.
You see, first, I think there are many scholarships which the government gives for, especially for, students who come from the marginalized section, from the deprived section, to assist them financially. And along with it, it is also important that we need to have, I do agree, we need to have counselors in, especially in, such universities where there is so much of competition.
But you already do.
Yes, to who prepare the students to accept, to have the
That's
courage
exactly
to
the
accept
point
the
that
failure.
AI
The problem is,
that's
irrespective of the background today,
I'm
large
gonna
number
repeat,
of students
Dr.
are not
Bhatt,
able, not
let me-
in a
let me-
position
let
to
me
accept
repeat-
the failure in life.
Let me repeat what the Ambedkar Periyar Study Circle
And as I understand,
Association.
Mr. Solanki also, he was not able to pass one of the examinations as reported in one of the,
we are
one
going
of
to
the
have to wait for a
newspapers.
complete investigation on this, but you look at the claims of AIPPSC, which says that in these counseling centers, people were anti-reservation. They're very openly written posts where they talk about their views against reservation. Now, if you have a counseling center that professes such view, what help can one expect? That's institutional discrimination. Why are we so cagey about accepting that perhaps this could be a problem? Is there some effort where these premier institutions want to safeguard their reputation? I understand there would be a need to do so. But Mr. Sharma, don't you feel that if an allegation has come over and over again, it requires a national level inquiry? Why is it that this keeps coming in?
I cannot agree with you more on this, that we need to really get into it, do a good research and find a solution. That solution cannot come from any political or bureaucratic setup. You have to have a good research of independent people who would do it. But before that, let me tell you, higher education is intrinsically about Eiffel Tower. It's about the best in academia. And your best of the best get into IITs. They are facing cutthroat competition. Don't expect from the IIT student that they will give any leverage to a classmate or anyone that, okay, you go ahead and I will wait. That won't happen. You have to find out how to handle this competition and peer group pressure, which we have not. But I know IIT Bombay had cells and departments which were handling this. I don't know how this has happened. I would only say that, look, as social engineering, we have as a nation done this, and in the recent past years we have increased the scholarship, we have increased their participation and everything, but then we need to also ensure that that reaches the right people and person and students. There is absolutely no two questions that every life is important. Leave it to the teachers, leave it to the institution, because as a society we have handed over our children to these teachers and we start by saying they are not honest, they are not doing this for our... Why would a SC/ST cell not work for the SC/ST students? So what I would say is, they have done a good job, they have done a survey recently, but we need to have a good research by scholars who are experts of this area, and they give a solution. We normally try to find a political or a bureaucratic solution to this, which is not correct. Second, I will emphasize,
but you see, who will implement the change?
Government, obviously. Then the government has to do, but the government must be told. The government must be told that you leave it to the experts to do it, and don't make it a political or a bureaucratic investigation.
Okay, Ashok Bharti, what is your view on letting the teachers and the institutes itself handle this problem?
Well, I don't agree with this proposition at all, because this is not a problem of the teachers only. This is not a problem of the students only. This is a problem of this whole society. The bureaucracy is involved in that. Politics is involved in that. Every institution that runs in this country is equally responsible for making sure that the people who are feeling ostracized, they understand they are wanted. In my opinion, that the empathy that we used to have, the empathy for the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, is diminishing in a very fast way. And this has to do very clearly involvement of the teaching community, because teaching community itself is divided into caste and creeds and reservation, pro-reservation, anti-reservation. So we have to understand that.
And who did it in the recent years?
Well,
if you say that
whoever
it
has
is
done,
increasing, who did it?
Whoever has done,
but there is something wrong with the politics.
Well, whoever has done it, the issue is, if this is there, then there will be teachers in IITs who will be supporting reservation. There will be teachers in IIT who will be opposing reservation, and the victim will be the Darshan Solanki and people like that. We have to understand that. Therefore, we need to create a mechanism where every student entering into the IIT, IIM or any higher institute of higher learning feel wanted. Do not feel being excluded, being humiliated. We have to understand that humiliation plays a very great role.
No, there is a difference. One is humiliation, which is related to say, performance, how capable you are, your capability, and the other is discrimination along caste line.
That's what I'm saying.
Professor Badri Narayan, Professor Badri, I'll come to you. Yeah. Professor Badri Narayan, a lot of friends of mine, relatives of mine, many of those who have passed from these institutes of excellence, ever since this story has come, have been sending lots of messages and giving in their views also. And to say that discrimination between those who are from the general quota and those who are from the reserved category, that this discrimination does not exist, is a farce. Because the discrimination begins right from this point, where there is a reservation quota and then there is a non-reservation. The discrimination has begun right there. And then it manifests itself in different conversations, that rather than elevating children, it introduces them to a world of discrimination. Don't you think that this is a problem?
Yeah, indeed. You are very
I'm not building a case for doing away with reservation.
Yes,
I'm saying dealing with this problem.
Yeah,
because you've started this sentiment right there.
Yeah, you are very right, Sanket. Actually, we make a reservation category, and that category defines identity in the educational institution when the boys qualify.
For a just cause.
For the,
to get people from the marginalized community to reach a platform.
But they turn the table. Sometimes this category, which plays a positive role in empowering the marginal community. For others, they use it as a derogatory meaning. So one thing is. Second thing is, the discrimination is all pervasive. No, it's a very micro thing. It's not visible, but it works in various ways. So we need to dilute and deroot this kind of atmosphere from the educational institution. And in that, this counselors has a very important role. And you quoted this comment about the counselor. It's a very, I think it's not good, because what we see that we need to orient our counselors to understand social discrimination of our society. They don't understand. They pass from some psychology background or some counseling training they have, that the entire training coming from the West, and that West, that training, the understanding of Indian society is not much there. So we need to reorient them to understand Indian society and its various kinds of discrimination layers. And other things, and that's why the new education policy is very conscious, Sanket ji, on this. And they say that we need to change the entire atmosphere of the educational institution using the Indian traditional bhavs, the feeling, sympathy, and linking one to another. So competitive to a kind of cooperative kind of atmosphere. And for that, they have given entire the provisions.
Okay, let's hope things change. I mean, for the better. But we are getting a lot of response from our viewers, and this is one viewer who's an Indian, studied from one of these institutes. His name is Mr. Rahul Mishra, and he writes from London. He says there is a huge difference in the All India ranks of general. I don't know whether this is true. You can correct me if I'm wrong. There is a huge difference in the All India ranks of general category and SC/ST students, and some of it translates to how ready they are to cope up with the curriculum. And then, of course, there is this comparison which instantly happens between those who have come out from an extremely competitive, larger pool of talent base and those who have come from a talent base in the SC/ST category. And when they are placed at the same level, that's where the friction begins. Do you think that this could be one of the reasons why one faces the pressure? Coupled with a very complex discrimination along caste lines as being alleged.
Sanketji, even if you look at of the data that is there by NCRB, the reason for the suicide, maximum reason is two reasons have been cited. One is failure in examination, and second is because of some family issues. So the failure in examination,
not because of discrimination along caste
lines. You see that is
it
just
has not
that.
Been examined.
It is not so. See, you see, this could be, that could be a manifestation out of this, because you are not able to perform that.
Why does this discussion of discrimination happen outside the ambit of investigation?
You see,
clearly something is missing. That's my problem. Something is missing. No, for investigation example, never detects discrimination.
Sanjay, I want to just
and people allege discrimination.
I'll tell you that.
One example, there in these, especially in IITs, there were the number of girls studying over there was very less, if you remember, and for that the government just a couple of years back had introduced 20% of superannuated seats, just to so that the campuses, they become, they are more, cohesive and inclusive. Now, this is the first time that 30% of applicants, for the first time in JEE, they are, girls who are sitting for that exam.
Professor Sharma, and then I'll come.
See, nobody denies there is discrimination, but then that's innate in their process because they come through a very tough competition and they are fighting against each other to get the best job. So, you cannot deny that there is discrimination, but that's in academia we know that this is bullying by the peer group and we have to handle that. I feel there should be more work on this. But second is that your curriculum is actually very tough, and when you put somebody in that class who has not been able to negotiate with this curriculum, one finds it very difficult to handle at this stage. Institutions must provide extra coaching to these, which IIT Bombay is doing. I know we need to do more on that. The third is that when students or groups from various backgrounds are included, you have to know about other areas. Like what I would say is, most of the times children come from humble background. They are not able to financially cope with the peer group. So they must be given massive scholarship to actually handle all other things, like very in symbiotic terms I can say that their dressing, whether they can go to a restaurant to have dinner when they want, they must have that
That's where they become
money.
conscious.
They at least on these grounds they can say we are equal. Academically they must be given coaching, financially they must be supported, but then what you have been insisting is that we must have an in-depth study and that findings must be implemented. I believe every time we try to find
so now
bureaucratic answer to these issues, which is not.
Let's then spend the next few minutes talking about the solution. We've spoken
Yes.
about the problem. Let's start with you, sir.
Yeah.
What do you think could be that solution? And today we are proposing that should there be a detailed nationwide study on whether this discrimination exists. You feel it does, but it will be more scientific if it came from a very detailed study, because then you can action off policy changes based on that study.
Absolutely, Sanketji. I just wanted to inform you that Professor N. Sukumar, Professor of Political Science in Delhi University, he has just recently published a huge book on the what is happening in the higher institutions with the Dalits, and this includes suicides case, discrimination case, documented, very well documented, that is one. But let me share with you that if we have to improve the academic environment in the institution, the caste students have to be really taught, and they have to really be educated about the social realities of the discrimination. That they have to be very and I guess that it should be mandatory for every caste students, whether empathetic or not, to go through a training where they should learn how to behave with the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, or the people of lower economic background, so that such kind of even if they want to say something, they hold their words before they say anything which is go against the dignity of other students. That is the one. The
First
second,
of all, they should be counseled. For,
Absolutely.
for all you know that many people in the general category will not know.
Yeah,
of course, you must
absolutely.
know not to insult people,
Yeah,
but what are the sensitivities involved requires counseling.
yeah, I'll
That
just
you
say
must
that-
not
yeah.
say this.
So I guess, and similarly, there should be a course for all the teachers, every person involved in the academic institutes, so that they understand the social realities, and they should train themselves. They should be allowed to train themselves to behave in a very inclusive manner and not to insult or harm, injure, in discriminate related psychological injuries to the students.
Sure,
students.
sure.
Yeah.
Professor Nath.
I think for the solution, you have already suggested one solution, so that there should be a nationwide study.
No, see, like for instance, Mr. Bharti suggested that there is already a study, very detailed one at that. I'm saying that is where policy makers come into the picture. You said that don't leave it. Don't leave it to the politicians.
My argument is
somebody has to initiate it at that level.
There should be a detailed study by the state,
By the state?
And state with the support of the state, by academicians,
By academicians,
by
not-
experts, but the support of the state.
Commissioned by the state.
Commissioned by the
Yeah.
state.
And based on those studies, you can formulate the policies. First thing is this. Second thing is what Ashokji is saying, that you need to change the entire atmosphere of the institution, and for that you need to sensitize those who are being alleged for producing discrimination.
Yes, Ms. Sharma, your solutions that you can suggest.
First thing I will suggest that every child who is selected to be in this institution must be given massive funding to at least live comfortably and project oneself
made that
as coming from an elite, because these are elite institutions. And second is that you need to sensitize every individual in the institution and stop blame game. Political statements about such incidents put teachers and institution and directors into the defensive. Don't do that, because they start now finding a counter argument to this. Let institutions themselves find out, because as a teacher, if my student has committed a suicide, don't think I'm happy about it. I'm as sad as anybody else, so ask me what happened. But when you start by blaming me, then I start finding an argument to say that I'm not at fault. So I will say, trust your institution, trust your teachers, and this has been the tradition, and leave it to them. They will find a solution.
Okay. Professor Bhatt, the last word.
Sanketji, even we have seen in Kota also there have been many such unfortunate incidences which have also happened. So any institution, whether it is private or state run, one important aspect of course is that we need to have a good counseling system. Along with it, there should be a mentoring which should be available. Mentors, especially those students who are from marginalized section of the society, they must be having some mentors around with them. Along with it, yes, this sensitization program, workshops should be arranged, not only to sensitize all the students regarding such issues, along with it also to prepare them to accept failures in life, which is very important, because see, you can facilitate them within this institution, but once they go out of this institution, then what? So to prepare them for life, that they should have that much courage that they can face failures in life.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. I think we've covered a lot of ground. Let's hope something good and positive comes out of this, because every time from Rohit Vemula to Darshan Solanki, an incident like this comes to light. Minus the surround sound, we have to think to ourselves that here is an innocent life which has been lost, a very precious life of a young Indian who could have done this country immensely proud, and now he is no more. We have to stop such suicides from occurring in the first place. We're stopping for a short break at this moment, but when we come back, we speak exclusively to the Social Justice Minister in the Union Government, Mr. Ramdas Athavale, and later we'll be in conversation with Jignesh Mewani. The big fight continues. Welcome back. You're watching The Big Fight, and joining us now is the Union Minister for Social Justice, Ramdas Athavale. Mr. Athavale, thank you very much for your time. My first question to you is, a family of many of these children who have committed suicide, death by suicide, have now alleged that there was discrimination. You have gone to IIT Bombay, you've spoken to the family members. Do you agree or not that there was discrimination which was or could have been the possible reason behind these suicides?
मुझे लगता है कि इसकी जांच होनी चाहिए, क्योंकि दर्शन सोलंकी जो है, ये दर्शन सोलंकी हमारा शेड्यूल कास्ट का लड़का था. अभी 3.5 महीना पहले ही वो मतलब IIT मुंबई में आया था और उनको एडमिशन मिला भी था. वो वैसा बहुत बड़ा क्लेवर भी था. और लेकिन जो अभी एग्ज़ाम हुई थी, उस एग्ज़ाम में कुछ एक पेपर उसको थोड़ा डिफ़िकल्ट गया था. तो जो मुझे जानकारी मिली, मैंने मतलब वहाँ 2 दिन पहले मैं वहाँ जाकर आया. वहाँ के जो डायरेक्टर है चौधरी, उनसे बात हुई, पुलिस ऑफिसर से बात हुई, और उनका जो पार्टनर है उनके साथ भी मतलब पुलिस इंक्वायरी कर रही है. तो जाति भेद भी मतलब बहुत जगह पर होता है, लेकिन अभी इसमें क्या हुआ है इसके संबंध में जांच होने की आवश्यकता है. हम महाराष्ट्र सरकार के जो हमारे डिप्यूटी सीएम है देवेंद्र फडणवीस जी, उनको भी मैं बोलने वाला हूँ। और इसकी जांच जो है, जांच एक स्पेशल ऑफिसर के माध्यम से होनी चाहिए। इसके पीछे क्या है, क्योंकि 3.5 महीना पहले स्टूडेंट इधर आया था और अचानक मतलब वो जंप लेकर मतलब आत्महत्या करता है, सुसाइड करता है। ये बात बहुत बड़ी गंभीर है। और जिस तरह 2014 में भी इसी इंस्टीट्यूट में मतलब अंबोरे नाम के शेड्यूल कास्ट के लड़के ने आत्महत्या की थी। अभी दूसरे जो चेन्नई का जो आईआईटी है, वहाँ भी वो 2 लड़कों ने आत्महत्या की है। तो इसी तरह का सिलसिला बढ़ता जा रहा है। इसके संबंध में मतलब पूरी जांच होनी चाहिए। स्टूडेंट पर कोई प्रशासन का या प्रोफेसर लोगों का दबाव होता है क्या?
But you know, Mr. Athawale, while you say that there should be a probe, I hope you realize that IIT Bombay in its statement refuses this entire discrimination angle. They say that we don't think that there is any discrimination. But the family has alleged that yes, on the phone call, we were getting to hear that the moment people got to know about Darshan Solanki's caste, there was a whole lot of discrimination. In a situation like this, don't you think that there has to be a detailed probe to probe this discrimination angle?
हाँ, मुझे लगता है कि इसमें जाति के आधार पर कुछ भेदभाव हुआ था या नहीं है, इसकी जांच होनी चाहिए। अगर प्रशासन या डायरेक्टर या मैनेजमेंट अगर ये बोल रहा है, वो तो मैनेजमेंट ऐसा बोलेगा ही। लेकिन अगर इसमें कोई जाति आधार पर कुछ अन्याय हुआ होगा और उसके कारण अगर उन्होंने आत्महत्या की होगी, तो जो इनके लिए जिम्मेदार है उनके ऊपर कड़ी से कड़ी कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए। क्योंकि एक नौजवान ने, एक बच्चे ने अपनी जान दे दी है, इसके पीछे और भी कोई सीरियस का कारण हो सकता है। इसलिए इसकी जांच पूरी होनी चाहिए। और मैं आईआईटी को भी, मैं एचआरडी मिनिस्ट्री से भी बात करूंगा और उसके लिए एचआरडी मिनिस्ट्री एक स्पेशल इंक्वायरी, इसके लिए जांच कमेटी का निर्माण भी करना चाहिए कि भाई इसी तरह की मतलब सुसाइड की घटनाएं ना घटे, इसी के लिए। और जाति के आधार पर भी बहुत बार अन्याय होता भी है, बहुत बार अन्याय सहन भी करना पड़ता है, ये भी बात सही है। लेकिन इसके पीछे क्या है, इसकी जांच होनी चाहिए। और एचआरडी मिनिस्ट्री के साथ मैं बात करूंगा।
But you know, Mr. Athawale, see, you are the government, and thus, being a union minister, I want to ask you this question. The government's own data says that between 2014 to 2021, of the 122 deaths in these premier institutions, 68 of them were of students belonging to the reserved category, that is SC, ST and OBC. That is more than 50%. Don't you think that warrants a national level inquiry or an investigation?
हाँ, मुझे जो आपने जानकारी दी बात सही है कि मतलब ये इतने सालों में, 8-10 सालों में 122 मृत्यु आईआईटी में हुई और उसमें से 68 बच्चे रिजर्व कैटेगरी के थे। तो जरूर इसकी जांच होनी चाहिए और मैं एचआरडी मिनिस्ट्री से बात करूंगा। और इसीलिए मुझे लगता है कि इसके लिए जांच कमेटी की आवश्यकता है। अगर इसकी जांच कमेटी का निर्माण करके अगर इसी तरह का कोई भेदभाव होता है, तो जरूर मुझे लगता है कि उन लोगों पर कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए जो लोग रिजर्व कैटेगरी के लोगों को, स्टूडेंट को तकलीफ देते हैं और उसके कारण वो आत्महत्या करते हैं।
Okay, a couple of quick questions before I let you go. You know, and this is a question related to you as well as many of the politicians whose entire politics revolves around, you know, benefiting the SC community, ST community, the OBCs. The politics revolve. I mean, you are a product of that form of politics. That's your vote bank. Do you feel that an ecosystem around the SCs and STs to raise their issues, the leaders who represent them have done justice? Because had they done justice, then these incidents would have stopped post Rohit Vemula. They haven't.
ठीक है ना, मुझे भी आप पूछ सकते हैं। मैं भी जिस समाज का रिप्रेजेंटेशन मैं कर रहा हूँ, उस समाज पर जब भी अन्याय होता है तब हम आवाज उठाते हैं। अन्याय नहीं होना चाहिए, इसके लिए भी हमारी कोशिश होती है। बहुत बार हम रैली निकालकर इसका निषेध भी करते हैं। बहुत बार प्रशासन के माध्यम से जिन्होंने अत्याचार किया उनको सजा देने का भी काम करते हैं। एट्रोसिटी एक्ट जो है उसका भी उपयोग करके उनको सजा दी जाती है। तो मतलब इसके लिए नेता लोग जो भी है तो उन्होंने एक्टिव रहना चाहिए और ऐसे वक्त पर आवाज उठाना चाहिए। तो मुझे लगता है कि जो घटना घटी है जरूर मेरे पार्टी के तरफ से भी आंदोलन किया जाएगा और इसकी पूरी जांच होनी चाहिए और इसी तरह की घटनाएं ना घटे इसके लिए सरकार ने भी कोशिश करनी चाहिए, मैनेजमेंट ने भी कोशिश करनी चाहिए।
All right, Mr. Ramdas Athawale, thank you very much for joining us on The Big Fight.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let's now also introduce Mr. Jignesh Mewani. He's also joining us. Mr. Mewani, you've seen these suicides that are taking place. What message does this send out?
ये बहुत ही खतरनाक और दुखदाई संदेश देता है। यह संदेश देता है कि रोहित वेमुला के बाद इस मुल्क को और हमारे एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट्स को और उसके फंक्शनरीज को जो सबक सीखना चाहिए था, जो सबक लेना चाहिए था, वो हमने नहीं लिया और इसीलिए रोहित वेमुला की इंस्टीट्यूशनल मर्डर हुई। फिर पायल तड़वी, कल ही मद्रास आईआईटी के किसी प्रोफेसर नेमली विपिन, उन्होंने भी रेजिग्नेशन शायद दे दिया है इसी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन के कारण। और दर्शन सोलंकी, आप सोचिए अहमदाबाद के स्लम क्वार्टर में रहने वाले एक मजदूर, एक प्लम्बर का बेटा दर्शन सोलंकी, वो 18-19 साल की उम्र में आईआईटी में जाता है। उसके कितने सपने हो गए, उसके माता पिता के कितने सपने हो गए, लेकिन रैगिंग के कारण या कास्ट बेस्ड डिस्क्रिमिनेशन के कारण या दोनों के कारण या तो वो आत्महत्या के लिए मजबूर है या उसकी हत्या कर दी गई। उसके परिवार के लोगों के मन में बहुत डाउट्स है और सरकार, आईआईटी, पुलिस प्रशासन कोई उनके डाउट्स को रिजोल्व करने को तैयार नहीं है।
You know, this is a question I asked Mr. Athawale a short while ago, and I want to ask you also. You are saying that there is a problem, it must be acknowledged, but you look at the IIT Bombay's response. I don't think in their statement they seem to acknowledge that this could also possibly be a problem, and because this acknowledgement has not come, there is no investigation along these lines. So do you think the first step is to acknowledge that this too could potentially be a problem, discrimination?
जी, आप जब भी किसी से अनटचेबिलिटी के बारे में या कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन के बारे में, कास्ट ब्रूटलिटीज के बारे में बात करेंगे, नहीं यार, लेकिन जिग्नेश अभी तो कहां पहले जैसा रहा है। ये स्टैंडर्ड टिपिकल घिसा पीटा आर्ग्यूमेंट ही आपके सामने पेश करते हैं। आप एक राष्ट्र के तौर पे अनटचेबिलिटी आज भी इंडिया में जिंदा है। आज भी हर 18 मिनट पे एक आदिवासी या दलित के ऊपर एट्रोसिटी होती है। आज भी हमारे आईआईटीज और आईआईएम में कास्ट बेस्ड डिस्क्रिमिनेशन है। इसका जब आप स्वीकार ही नहीं करते तब उसको रिजोल्व या रेक्टिफाई कैसे करोगे? तो आईआईटी के इस पर्टिकुलर दर्शन सोलंकी के मामले में सवाल यह है कि आईआईटी एक ओपननेस क्यों नहीं दिखा रही है? उसके माता पिता खुलकर दर्शन के क्लासमेट को, उसके रूममेट्स को, उसके कलीग्स को, उसके टीचर्स को मिल ही नहीं पाए। व्हाई सो? आपको क्या छिपाना है? आप कौन सी बात से डर रहे हैं? यदि मैं आईआईटी का डीन हूं और मेरे कैंपस में ऐसे हो जाए तो मैं पूरे आईआईटी के दरवाजे खोल दूंगा। आप अपने बेटे के कलीग्स को मिलिए, उनके टीचर्स को मिलिए, एक नहीं 10 बार आइए, पुलिस से मिलिए। यदि मुझे कुछ छुपाना नहीं है तो मैं जांच करवाऊंगा। तो इसलिए हमारी मांग है कि एक एसआईटी जिसमें 1-2 अफसर के नाम विक्टिम फैमिली दे, ऐसे अधिकारियों की बनी हुई एसआईटी के द्वारा जांच हो, तभी पता चलेगा कि ये मामला रेगिंग का है, कास्ट बेस्ड डिस्क्रिमिनेशन का है या दोनों का है या और कोई उसका एंगल है।
Let me ask you also the same question, Mr. Mewani. This entire ecosystem and netas who owe their existence to, representing this community, a word of advice for them, because you may be representing this community, but I don't think that justice is naturally being done as a result of this representation. Where do you stand on this issue?
तथाकथित दलित आदिवासी समुदाय के जो राजनेता है वो रूलिंग क्लास के क्लास इंटरेस्ट के पपेट्स हैं। इनको सचमुच कुछ परवाह नहीं। आज गुजरात में जो ऊना की घटना हुई तो गुजरात की सीएम आनंदीबेन पटेल ने जो प्रॉमिसेस किए थे जो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ गुजरात के गुजरात नाम के पब्लिकेशंस में प्रकाशित हुए थे, उसमें जो छोटा से घर का प्लॉट देने की बात है या छोटी बेटी गवर्नमेंट जॉब देने की बात है, वो भी करने को तैयार नहीं। उसमें ट्रायल कंडक्ट हो और कन्विक्शन हो, वो तो छोड़िए, एट्रोसिटीज एक्ट में रिहेबिलिटेशन में जो छोटी मोटी चीजें आवंटित करने की बात है, वो भी ये लोग करने को तैयार नहीं। न ये लोग असेंबली में बोलते हैं, न पार्लियामेंट में बोलते हैं। एट्रोसिटीज के सारे मामले स्पेशली डेजिग्नेटेड कोर्ट में कंडक्ट होने चाहिए। स्पेशली डेजिग्नेटेड कोर्ट इस मुल्क के ज्यादातर स्टेट्स में है ही नहीं। तो सरकारों को न कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन के खिलाफ कोई कैंपेन करने में रुचि है, और डिस्क्रिमिनेशन की घटना हो तो एफआईआर करके, पुख्ता जांच करके, ट्रायल कंडक्ट करके कन्विक्शन जब तक नहीं होगा। लेकिन सरकारों को और दलित आदिवासी बैकग्राउंड से आने वाले एमपी एमएलए को उसका कोई परवाह ही नहीं है। आज पार्लियामेंट में 80 से ज्यादा दलित और आदिवासी एमपीज बैठे हैं, क्यों खामोश है दर्शन सोलंकी के मामलों में? क्यों रोहित वेमुला की जब घटना हुई या पायल तड़वी की घटना हुई तो क्यों संसद नहीं गूंजा? क्यों ये लोग सड़क पे नहीं उतरे?
My final question, you see, I've been speaking to a lot of students, a lot of people who have been a product of these premier institutions, and they say that they're just spectacular organizations, great places to learn, great places to bond, and usually what happens in most of the cases, that a lot of these students from the SC/ST community who have entered these institutions in the reservation category, they find it very difficult to cope with the stress of education, that they would see many of these students around them who are excelling, who are performing way better, and then they feel a little stifled because in the institution they've got people bettering them. At home they have a burden of expectations because the family is not listening to them. They just want to push these students, and thus they find themselves boxed into a corner, thus leading to taking a drastic step like this.
देखिए, ये मेरी एक्सपर्टाइज का एरिया नहीं है, ना मैंने उसके ऊपर कोई स्टडी या रिसर्च या काम किया है, लेकिन मैं जितना भी समझाऊं, यदि कोई आईआईटी और आईआईएम में एडमिशन लेता है, राइट, तो पढ़ाई का प्रेशर वो झेल कर ही आया है। और यदि पढ़ाई का प्रेशर है तब भी क्या उसके लिए आप अनुकूल वातावरण का निर्माण करते हैं उन कैंपसेस में? क्या उनका काउंसलिंग होता है? उसकी कुछ काउंसलिंग की गाइडलाइंस भी है, राइट? तो दलित, आदिवासी, ओबीसी, महिला, इन तबकों की प्रॉपर सुनवाई हो, उनके साथ संवेदनशील तरीके से आप बिहेव करिए, उनके कोई छोटे मोटे इश्यूज हो उनको रिजोल्व करिए। यू मेक लाइफ कंफर्टेबल फॉर देम इन द कैंपस। ऐसा अटेम्प्ट जो अथॉरिटीज की ओर से होना चाहिए वो नहीं हो रहा है।
जी जिग्नेश भाई, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर योर टाइम।
इस मामले में आखिरी में हमारे गुजरात का बेटा था दर्शन सोलंकी, तो गुजरात के मुख्यमंत्री से विनती करूंगा मैं आपके माध्यम से कि वो महाराष्ट्र के मुख्यमंत्री से बात करें कि आखिर इस केस में एसआईटी से जांच क्यों नहीं हो रही। उना के वक्त माननीय प्रधानमंत्री ने कहा था, मारना है तो मुझे मारे, मेरे दलित भाइयों को मत मारिए। प्रधानमंत्री से भी विनती है कि एक एसआईटी के द्वारा जांच के ऑर्डर पारित करे, और हो सके तो अपने जीवन में कभी एक बार दलित और आदिवासी के वहां जहां डिस्क्रिमिनेशन या उनको विक्टिमाइज किया होगा, एक परिवार की कम से कम मुलाकात लीजिए।
All right, Mr. Jignesh Mewani, thank you very much for joining us. With that, we come to the end of this edition of The Big Fight, but news continues on the other side.